Greetings, unsettled souls. Welcome to the Correct Views. Semi-B to Gangi during political commentary for the Media Speaks. You might know me from Blasting News and Conservative Daily Post, maybe Teddy Stick. You may have noticed that Melatonin Mondays is no more. I don't know if it will be returning. But suffice to say that I am still going to be doing the Halloween show. I'm just not sure. Well, it'll have the characters and everything in it, but I'm not afraid to say that things have been going very badly for me lately. Your kind host has seen nothing but hurdles, so make sure you let me know what you think of the show as it moves on. And those of you that say prayers or know who Neville Goddard is, even though I don't believe God is only your imagination, if you could imagine great things for me, like me saying, hey, everything I talked about's doing much better now, I'd appreciate it. I really would. Alright, friends. The show must go on. This is USA Today. Newly released FBI documents reveal disturbing details about Sandy Hook shooter Adam Lanza. A lot of it, they said, is redacted, but I am going to go straight to the meat and potatoes here so that you guys can see the highlights. They said he was the weirdest person online. He had an obsession with mass murder, and particularly the 1989 Columbine school shooting that left, of course, 12 students dead and 1 teacher dead. 2 years before Sandy Hook, the witness who was connected with Lanza through postings on a website examining Columbine incident, the witness told investigators, was working on a spreadsheet and documenting the details of hundreds of spree killings and mass murders. It was something that he was obsessed with. He had Asperger's disease, which is a form of autism, which we know can be, but is not always tied to vaccines. However, we do know that autism has gone through the roof with vaccines, maybe not because the preservatives cause them, but because they give them so many of them at one time. He seemed to wallow in his depression. It said he had no effective coping mechanisms to deal with his depression, so he was a very down person. He seemed to wallow in it and ride out the low periods by hiding in his room and sleeping for 12 hours or more at a time, the witness told investigators. He seemed to have no friends or people who he could turn to for support or assistance. He did not appear to have any enjoyment of life. He's a very lonely, very sad person. I'm not justifying what this monster did. But I am saying that there are things that people do that make someone a monster. And this is particularly sad because you can't help but to wonder what his life could have been like if he hadn't had all of these problems. And this is someone who should have probably been maybe on the radar ahead of time. They had communicated regularly, Lanza and this witness, for more than 2 years, and the witness said the contact abruptly stopped just days before the shooting. Recounting her reaction to the news that Lanza had been involved in the shooting, the witness told investigators, he was more effed up than I thought. He had an interest perhaps in children, which is particularly nasty, so I mean the world's not missing him right now. Investigators found evidence to suggest that he had an interest in children that could be categorized as pedophilia, although there's no evidence that he acted upon it. Investigators have found Lanza's deteriorating relationship with his mother was a significant stressor in the months and weeks prior to the attack. However, the behavior analysts found that Lanza did not snap, but he engaged in careful, it says, methodical planning in preparation for his attack. These investigators found no evidence that he viewed the attack as a video game, which some people had said. He had been previously questioned by agents involving hacking, And it was into a government computer system back when he was in the 9th grade, so he did have a bit of intelligence to him. His mother told neighbors at a party that her son made it to the second level of scrutiny on the government site. The third layer of scrutiny was able to thwart his hack. So he was very knowledgeable about computers. Agents apparently told Nancy that if her son was that smart, he could have a job with them someday. The FBI did not comment on it. He weirded out after Hurricane Sandy when his mother were trapped in a house for a few days without electricity, but I think that's a bit much to say that led to all of this. But here's what we can say. And that is that, unfortunately, a lot of people who are abused or neglected or have been abandoned by those who they love do terrible things like Lanza has done. Let us remember how many people that go through what he did, that don't kill someone, but that just live in abject misery every day. Let us remember them and the promises that we made to them. And maybe if we do, out of the 10 million people who have faced things like that, maybe the one Adam Lanza out of all of those people might just see enough compassion that they won't do something similar. Having said that, of course, the world does not miss him any, that is for sure. And peace-loving people the world over, myself included, see ya, buddy. Activist post. New study provides further evidence of low IQ in children due to fluoride exposure. Now, there's no proof that fluoride is even good for your teeth, but more alarming than that is what it does to the mind. How many of you know that fluoride was something that was used by the Nazis to keep the prisoners in check in concentration camps? Now, it was at higher doses than what's given here. However, there's a lot of fluoride in our water, and then it accumulates in the body. Your body passes some of it, but not all of it. And it does have an effect on the mind, and you can see it. Never has America been so soft and weak and whiny. Never have they been so uncommitted and centered upon only themselves. I think we all fall victim to it. I know I have. But it's more rampant than ever before, and it's much bigger. And people don't see it. You can talk to someone about morality or about commitment or promise keeping, and they'll stare at you with... They look like Tucker Carlson. By Tucker Carlson impersonation. But you know what I mean. You see it. If you're watching this show, you already know what I'm talking about, or you probably wouldn't have even found it. Welcome aboard. A new study has found that parental exposure to fluoride may contribute to lower IQ in children, the latest in a number of studies indicating health and cognitive issues as a result of fluoride exposure. On September 29th, the Journal of Environmental Health Perspectives published a study, Parental Fluoride Exposure and Cognitive Outcomes in Children at 4 and 6 to 12 years of age in Mexico, examining the results of parental exposure to fluoride and the potential health concerns. The researchers called the study one of the first and largest longitudinal epidemical studies to exist that either address the association of early life exposure to fluoride to childhood intelligence, or the study association of fluoride and cognitive using individual biomarker of fluoride exposure. The study was funded in part by the U.S. National Institutes for Health. So what did they find? Our findings, combined with evidence from existing animal and human studies, reinforce the need for additional research on potential adverse effects of fluoride, particularly in pregnant women and children. How many pregnant women have a glass of water in their hand right now? My wife thinks I'm nuts because I try to drink very little of the fluoridated water. It says they want to ensure the benefits of population-level fluoride supplementation and would make sure they outweigh the potential risks. So now they're acknowledging it. Because they found that higher parental fluoride exposure was associated with lower scores on tests for cognitive function at age 4 and between ages 6 and 12. Dr. Leonardo Trasende, a pediatrician who studies potential links between environmental exposures and health problems at the New York University of Langone Health, told Newsweek the study was well conducted and raises serious concerns about fluoride supplementation being in the water. We know exactly how dangerous it is. A study published in the BMJ's Journal of Epidemiology and Community Health confirmed fluoride's negative effect on the thyroid gland and possible connection to depression, weight gain, and other negative health effects. The Journal of Analytical Chemistry indicates that fluoride ions found in fluoridated water and toothpaste may lead to urinary stone disease. That's particularly enjoyable now, isn't it? Environmental Health published findings that found a potential connection between fluoride exposure and the prevalence of adult attention hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. It goes on and on and on. And yet, when you talk about it, how many of you are still listening? Type in "still listening" in the comment line and I'll send you something free as long as you send your address to thecorrectviews@hotmail.com. How many are still listening? Or did you just tune out like it didn't really matter because you've all heard about fluoride before? Well, have you done anything to try to stop it? Show this video to people. Make better videos if you want to and steal my data. I don't care. I only read it anyhow. But do something. Post it on your damn Facebook page. Do something. Two more stories to get to, friends. The McClatchy DC Bureau has a rather interesting story here. China speeds ahead of the U.S. as quantum race escalates, worrying scientists. Now, it is the quantum world that has shown us a very interesting fact. Going back to my earlier interest in Neville Goddard. I'll do a piece on him one day if anybody cares. Neville Goddard was a man who believed that your imagination was God himself and that there was no other God. I don't really believe that. However, he also, the reason that he believed this, I should say, was because if you imagine something happening from it, not of it. For instance, if you want to go to a baseball game and you think about that, you're not going to accomplish anything other than reaffirming that you want it. However, if you envision that you are at the baseball game, in many instances it will happen exactly the way you envisioned it. And it's something that I only discovered about last March. I'm not that good at it. If anybody wants to know, I'll do a whole video on it if anyone cares. But the reason that there's some kind of scientific merit to this is that quantum science has proved that nothing is actually solid. Instead, everything is waves, and it only becomes solid when it is viewed. Look up the two slits experiment. This computer that I'm tapping on only appears to be solid because it is being observed, which of course lends itself to creationism, since I can close my eyes and it's still there. That would also imply that we're being watched by anything, which could be kind of creepy. Spirits, God, the dead. Science doesn't pretend to answer that. However, science does know that we are not living in a solid universe. Again, look up the two slits experiment and you will see exactly what that means. Well, listen to this. All of that is quantum science. Listen to this. This is not good. So Washington, in the U.S. and other Western scientists voice awe and even alarm at China's quickening advances and spending on quantum communications and computing, revolutionary technologies that could give a huge military and commercial advantage to the nation that conquers them. The concerns echo, although to a lesser degree, the shock in the West 6 decades ago when the Soviets launched Sputnik space satellites, sparking the new space race. Again, this is looking inward, not outward, but it's very comparable. In quick succession, China in recent months has utilized a quantum satellite to transmit ultra-secure data, inaugurated a 1,243-mile quantum link between Shanghai and Beijing, and announced a $10 billion quantum computing center, which I can't seem to say. To me, what is alarming is the level of coordination of what they've done, said Christopher Monroe. He is a physicist and a pioneer in quantum communications at the Uni of Maryland. Perhaps more than the accomplishments of the Chinese scientists is the resources that China is pouring into the research, into how atoms, photons, and other basic molecular matter can harness, possess, and transmit information. This could revolutionize the way that everything is done when it comes to every kind of communication you can imagine and the securing of data. And on a much larger level, it could affect travel, though certainly not in our lifetime. It cannot be imagined. It doesn't necessarily mean that their scientists are better, said Martin Laforest, a physicist and senior manager of the Institute of Quantum Computing at the Uni of Waterloo. It's just that when they say we need $1 billion for this, bam, the money comes. And again, America has a problem with that. We don't like to fund things that might happen. And when we did, of course, we unlocked the nuclear age, which ended up being not necessarily a boon for anyone. The engineering hurdles that China has cleared for quantum communication means that the U.S. will lag in this area for years. Not good. The general feeling is that they'll get there before us, said Renee Copeland, a high-performance computer expert who is president of D-Wave Government, Inc., a Vancouver area company that uses aspects of quantum computing in its systems. Imagine how can it be that we are living in a world where America is looked at as someone who is not on the top of the chain when it comes to a very important field in science? Well, that's what I'm telling you here. Building a functional quantum computer sets forth different kinds of challenges than mastering quantum communication, and may involve creating materials and processes that do not exist yet. Once thought to be decades off, scientists now presume a quantum computer may be built in a decade or less. The stakes are so high that the advances by the U.S. government remain secret. Pardon me. We don't know exactly where the U.S. is. I fervently hope that a lot of work is taking place in a classified setting, said R. Paul Steimers, a lawyer for K&L Gates, a Washington law firm. He said it's a race. Pure quantum computers can remain largely theoretical throughout although simple prototypes exist. Many designs call for them to operate in super cold conditions, bordering on absolute zero. Possibly the importance of the Bose-Einstein condensate comes into play here. Roughly minus 458 degrees Fahrenheit, that's colder than space, without any noise or micro movements that can cause a malfunction. So these are not just easy to manufacture nor maintain machines. What has made them the holy grail for nations and private industry is that quantum computers, in theory, are magnitudes better at shifting huge amounts of data than the binary processors that power mainframes, desktops, and smartphones today even. They also can process algorithms that break all widely used encryptions. So nothing would be secure, but they would be able to secure things excellently, but nobody else would. A communist nation with forced abortions. Way ahead of us, people. Way ahead of us. Rather than doing a series of millions of computations based on binary options of ones and zeros, quantum computers employ particles that exist in an infinite number of superpositions, and of the two states simultaneously, a condition that towering physicist Albert Einstein once labeled as spooky. Now, you tune into the correct view so that I can make the impossible simple. This is pretty impossible, but it's true. You can't have this pen here and here at the same time. However, in the quantum world, you can do just that. As a matter of fact, it is happening now at a tiny quantum atomic level. China splashed into the news in June when it announced a satellite and ground station had communication through entangled quantum particles. Even if separated by thousands of miles, these particles act in unison as they are entangled. Any change in one particle will induce a change in the other, almost as if a single particle existed in multiple places at once. You could put them at two different ends of the universe and the same thing would happen. Such long-distance quantum communication smashes records, occurring over 745 miles, far beyond a mile or so scientists had tested previously, and signaled China's mastery over this form of communication, deemed ultra-secure and unhackable. All you hackers, and may be obsolete before you know it. I read that on Sunday and went, oh, shiznit. That's not what he said, though. Said Gregory S. Clark, an Australian-born mathematician who is chief executive at Cinetech Corp., a global cybersecurity company, which is in Mountain View, California. Neither the U.S. military nor private industry is known to have such capabilities. The whole world changes with this, he said. In early September, China chucked up another milestone, completing a quantum communication link between its capital and Shanghai, by far the biggest link in the world, surpassing anything done in the U.S. or Europe. If it costs $10 billion, China will do it without asking, and they'll put an army together to do it. I don't think any other government in the world is able to grow that fast. And friends, Z has been bragging about how far past us they are. And now we hear that they're going to be leading the world in quantum communication. And I don't want to bore anyone here, but for those who those who are interested in such things, the quantum world is able to affect travel. Some people think it's even able to affect time and manifestation. If that's only 1/100th true. We do not want China leading the way on that. I promise you we don't. Friends, that brings us to the dumbdee of the day. And I don't have the you are an idiot. You are an idiot. Okay, I did it. WorldNewsDailyReport.com. FBI agents made an astonishing discovery this morning while executing a search warrant at the residence of a Houston mortician. 3,178 embalmed human penises. Yes, I told you it was the dumbdee of the day. The FBI suspected 54-year-old Dave Murray, who I will show you in a minute, an employee of the Harris County Morgue, of being implicated in an organ trafficking network. Investigating several reports of missing organs and body parts. Happens a lot when people aren't donating and people are nefarious. Morgues are selling the parts after you were dead. Dozens of agents raided his residence this morning, hoping to find evidence of his involvement in the crimes. What they found on the site was a lot more disturbing than what they expected, as the FBI spokesman Andy Ramirez described the scene in an interview with WNTV4. There were jars everywhere, filled with hundreds of glass jars. Each of them contained a penis floating in formalin. According to Ramirez, the accused rapidly confessed to everything and was soon arrested. He explained in great detail how he had been cutting off dead men's genitals organs and collecting them for more than 10 years. Don't even want to know why. It took the FBI more than 7 hours to gather all of the organs and other pieces of evidence that were found on the site. A total of 53 criminal charges have already been filed against Mr. Murray, and hundreds more will be filed over the next few days, maybe one for each schlong. The anonymous FBI source told WNTV that a number of charges could reach over 3,000. Well, maybe 3,178 then. Yeah, one for each pecker. Dave Murray will remain in custody for the moment, as a psychiatric evaluation has been ordered to determine if he's fit to stand trial. No, I'm sure he's perfectly sane. If he is considered fit, he will appear in court at the beginning of court procedures. I'm going to show you before we jump. Let me jump out first, and then I'll end with it. Thank you, friends, for listening to The Correct Views. Please donate if you can at thecorrectviews@hotmail.com. You can do so through PayPal. And then I will give you here the picture of these. Hey, man, he looks like Buddy Puff. I'll see you guys closer to Halloween, friends. Let me know how you liked all of the Halloween ones I've done thus far.